Okay. Mrs. Seaman?
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Ms. Remington?
Yes.
Mr. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Webster?
Yes.
Ms. Powers only?
Yes. Item 2, Mr. Webster, are you earning your money tonight?
We have no signatures done.
Okay. So moving on to item 3.1, we need a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting from November 5th.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
Ms. Remington?
Yes.
Mr. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Webster?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Ms. Powers only?
Yes. Item 3.2, approval of the minutes of the work session for November 19th. We need a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Webster?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yep.
Ms. Remington?
Yes.
Ms. Powers only?
Yes. And Mrs. Remington, we are waiting anxiously for your legislative report. Do you have any prompts
Not
this
yet.
evening?
Oh, no, we don't have new business yet.
Oh, that's right.
I know my legislative report is exciting, but, we just.
Okay,
have to
item
stay on
4.1,
the agenda.
we have an organizational meeting on January 14th at 6:30, and we need a president pro tem to be appointed for that meeting.
I would move that we appoint Kathy Dolney as president pro tem.
Second?
Any discussion?
Mm-mm.
Mrs. Seavick?
Excuse me, Mr. Webster?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Ms. Remington?
Yes.
Mr. Tackett?
Yes.
Ms. Powers only?
Abstain. Item 4.2, the next regular meeting is January 14th. And now the legislative report, we have waited for
I know,
so
for a
anxiously.
whole month.
For a
I
whole
know.
month.
I have no props, I'm sorry. It's gonna be pretty dull tonight.
For those of you that were not here last month, would you like to share what you did?
Oh, well, we were discussing the weapons issue and what can be considered a knife. So I brought a plethora of different types of knives in, just to kind of egg on the discussion of which knife was probably more damaging than any other knife, and actually anything can be a weapon, including a pencil or a pen. So it was just a little levity and a very serious discussion. So, but I have no props. Legislative report, December 2018. House Bill 491 was sent to the governor for signature. This bill extends the 2 alternative pathways to graduation until 2020. The bill also includes language from House Bill 705, which exempts treasurers from liability for certain cases in which loss of public funds occur. Do you have anything you'd like to
That's
add
awesome.
on that? Okay.
You're
All right.
invited.
House Bill 338 is on its way to the governor for signature. This bill qualifies licensed chiropractors and medical professionals listed on the National Registry of Certified Medical Examiners to perform annual physicals on school bus drivers. The House Joint Resolution 15 proposes a statewide ballot issued to amend the Ohio Constitution to offer free, universal, public preschool. So how will that affect us? Since we are always in the negative for our preschool. will the state be funding this?
Well, if they're going, well, I shouldn't say if they're going to make it necessary, they'll fund it, but
Right.
something of that scale is gonna have to come with funding.
Right. That might be good news for us financially. House Bill 626 establishes a temporary moratorium on the creation of new academic distress commissions. Apparently, we have enough. And House Bill 652 evaluates and ranks cities regarding academic support. Now, in the Senate Education Committee, they just passed the following bills. House Bill 428 deals with students' religious expression in public schools. House Bill 502 requires certain public school employees to undergo biennial youth suicide awareness and prevention training. And House Bill 477 eliminates non-operational and outdated provisions related to the Ohio Department of Education and school operations.
Have any of those gone into committee?
These have passed the Senate Education Committee,
Okay,
these bills right here.
but they haven't been.
They
passed
haven't
by the
been
Senate.
passed by, no, they're just in that committee, Education Committee. They're moving on now, so that's my legislative report.
So you could have brought like a stethoscope and a
I couldn't-
sphygmomanometer
I
and could
didn't
have
have
done
those at
prompts.
home though, I'm sorry, I'll do better. Actually, perhaps next year you could do them and bring props. Thank you.
Any question or discussion?
No, I don't think so. They don't give you a whole lot of information, but just so everybody's aware of what's going on.
Thank you, Ms. Remington.
You're welcome, President Courtney.
Okay, we need a motion here for the treasurer's consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Seaman?
Okay, I have two items tonight. The first one are donations that were presented to the district. A lot of them were for the fall play, one was for the softball program, and then there were some books donated to the Elm Street Library. The second item I have tonight is to certify the amounts and the rates determined by the Budget Commission, authorizing them to the county auditor. So it's an annual thing. We have to approve the rates in order for them to collect the taxes for us to turn around and give us revenue. So that's the second item under the consent agenda.
What is the rate?
If you, they're all listed individually, so it's every
Okay.
levy
Mhm.
that's listed, so there's lots of rates actually.
Okay.
So there's the general fund, the bond, which is the construction, there's the permanent improvement fund, and then all the individual, that Schedule B is each time we went through a levy. And the majority of our levies, except for one, are continuing, but it just kind of shows you what year that they were established.
Any other questions or comments?
Just, again, thank you to everyone who donated. It's
Mhm.
awesome to see
Absolutely.
so many people interested in continuing the presentations.
And while you're up, I would like to thank you for the again, we got a positive audit report.
Yes, we did.
And that's,
Yes.
thanks to you and your team for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Seaman, if you call the roll, please.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Ms. Remington?
Yes.
Mr. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Webster?
Yes.
Ms. Powers Dolly?
Yes.
Okay, then item 7.1 through 7.5 are the last time you'll see these reports. We successfully converted over to the new system, so the reports will look very different moving forward. They will, in a sense, say the same thing, but they will definitely look much different.
Much more modern.
Yes, without a doubt. I'm no longer in a DOS prompt. I have drop-down menus, it's crazy. So, we successfully completed it, we signed off just last week that the conversion is done. We successfully closed both systems, so we're just now on the new system and we don't have to run parallel anymore, so. it's
Everybody
really-
got paid okay?
Everybody got paid. Some people weren't notified of their pay, but they got paid. Their money was in the bank, which is more important.
Yes, right.
But they're working on that bug, so we're getting there, and if that's the worst, then I'll take that. I'd rather have 40 people not get notification than 40 people not get paid. So we did okay.
And your team's trained, ready to go, understands what they're doing?
Yeah, so we started this back in the fall. We started like in September, going over to LGCA and getting trained. And the entire month of November, once we closed October out, we had to do everything in both systems. So we did everything double. So check runs for accounts payable, everything, voiding checks to refund checks, to making payroll, to posting receipts, everything that we would do in a given month, we did on the old system and on the new system, and every day we checked to make sure that we kept in balance the whole entire time through.
Thank you again. Okay, we're gonna skip item number 8. No?
If we
Okay.
just pass over it, it doesn't take effect?
Doesn't
Yes.
happen.
Okay, so,
Somehow I
You
think
could all vote no.
when he doesn't show.
We
up.
could all vote no.
I believe if you miss 3 consecutive,
You're automatically counted.
yes.
Is that your plan B?
unless there's data.
Unless there's. Why would you do that
Unless
every
there's
month?
cake. Oh. Okay, so we're looking at item 8.1.
Move that we accept the resignation as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, so discussion. Mr. Costello,
Yeah,
you will be missed.
thank you.
You
I
are
will
our
miss this
senior
group.
person on the board right now. Our senior person is sitting back there. Our former senior person.
Maybe we should move these to like not a Monday.
No, I've enjoyed most of my time on the board. There have been times when it's been challenging and difficult. You're not gonna make everybody happy. Met some great people, made some great friends, and I'm sure you'll put someone in place that's gonna continue that forward. Yes.
Well, I think we have a good mix on the board of different professions, and I think you've added a lot with your expertise.
Thank you.
Computers.
I'm just waiting for a vote.
And, well, we're not gonna vote. No.
Let's see, how much longer can we drag this out?
I've appreciated your experience and your wisdom and being somebody that we can call on for advice.
Well, I said it before, and it might have been, we were talking to some potential candidates, but, when I started this, actually before I was elected, I went for an open position and didn't get it, and that's fine. But I remember Mr. Diller talking about, some of the things that it takes, integrity and fairness, and to a certain degree, I mean, there's a lot of information that you'll deal with in a small town like ours, where you're talking about your neighbors' kids sometimes, or and having that trust and loyalty and being able to do that with integrity is really important. I can honestly say, I think this board does a fantastic job of that. I mean, when we're dealing with things of a sensitive nature, we don't hear about them in the community. This is a really good group, so whoever joins this will be coming into good company.
Well, thank you for your service to both the district and the students and the community. Because you represent them all, and you've done it fairly and with always good intentions for what's best for our kids. We appreciate that.
When I think of your tenure, you've been here for 3 superintendents.
Worked with 3 superintendents, 2 treasurers, some different board members, but a couple different assistant superintendents, I guess. A little while. Different principals, people that are no longer here, people that have been promoted, so yeah, it's quite a few people. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Good. Maybe not the superintendent. Assistant.
Are you gonna come here on?
No, ma'am, you won't see me.
Oh, come on.
Wow.
You could have thought about it.
No, chunk down
I
my
encourage you to take me
throat.
up on this offer if you ever need anything, and I can make it work. I'm happy to do whatever it is, from committee to, science fair judge to whatever it is. I'm happy to do that sort of thing. That is the whole reason I did this. It is not for me or for my kids. It was for the community, for the kids in the schools. And I'm happy to continue that, but you probably won't see me. Not saying I won't look to see what's going on.
Will you be watching us
We know
on
you.
I
on
might
the
give Mr. Patty
internet?
another viewer, he might
Wow.
be at the floor now.
Okay. Yay.
But I probably will not be. I mean, and the reality is that's part of the
Right.
reason. It's sometimes tough to even get here.
Sure.
Well, I know, we were sitting going over some things on Friday, kind of at halftime of the basketball game, and, one of the teachers, counselors came up to him saying, I've heard a rumor, and she was disappointed, of course, and the thing that stood out was, she expressed, of course, her appreciation, but also the sense that the staff and the administration feel, this is being overly general, but feel that Mr. Castell was looking out for everybody's interest, not just his own. And they knew that he was there to serve the district and to protect the district and take care of the district. And that was, that's always been evident from my standpoint. His counsel has been invaluable. His insights and his challenges on different issues, so, he will definitely be missed, and I thank you for your help to me.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm sure you'll have lots of wonderful candidates, and we'll pick one that continues that tradition.
Come on, somebody's gotta say something to actually embarrass him.
I'm embarrassed by all of us. So, I really do. I mean, and you're right. I mean, the reality is I don't have an agenda. I mean, I just look at the things presented to us. My only agenda is to try to make the district the best it can be and get the right people in place. And that's it. If you keep it simple like that, then you can stay true to it.
So what recommendations do you have for us?
I mean, you guys can, take it the way you want to go. I mean, it's your board. In fact, like I have got years and years and years of experience at this. I mean, I got like 35 people to sign a paper to put me on the ballot. I've got about 1,200 or so that voted for me. I don't really have much to offer you there, I'm sorry. No words of wisdom. You should know that. I was a student. You're not gonna get many words of wisdom. No, I do, I appreciate it. Good luck. You glad you came on board? Think you're
Now
in
I'm
position?
now I'm no longer gonna be like the greenhorn that is gonna be higher
I did that just for you.
expectations.
You will
It's
now have some
disappointing
more
now,
experience.
yeah.
Yeah, you get to move
I like to,
a seat in.
I know, yeah.
We'll send it up and
Well, I appreciate
gain some seniority.
the support and guidance that you've offered me. It's been very helpful. This is a very collegial board, and it's been one of the things I've enjoyed most of the last year, and I think you really contributed to that. You know, I think that this is a group of people who are really committed, and you've really helped us set that tone, so I honor you for that.
Anyone else?
Yeah, thank you, Steve.
No,
Appreciate it.
That's very heartfelt, and I appreciate it. We talked earlier, and I'm happy to see you guys continue. I'm sure you'll be great.
I'm gonna end this and call the vote.
I'm just waiting for a vote. It's not like I get to leave. I said I'd stay on through the end of the year, just to
Sure.
make it easy for.
This is
for that.
effective
And-
1/1, right?
Right, and for those that don't, I mean, we've talked about the procedure, I mean, Kathy and I have talked about the procedure, because I've gone through that before, I don't know that anybody else has.
Should we talk about that before we vote?
You can vote, talk about it.
Because I looked up policy, you know, just to make sure, because so, we contact the news media and word of mouth. I think some people have already talked to some potential candidates. And the notice of interest goes to Dr. Engelhardt. And then we interview all applicants and go from there. But we have to fill the seat by the next meeting. Actually,
It would
we
be
have to
30
fill the
days
seat
from
in
my-
30 days,
From my resignation,
yes.
But I believe you cannot hold a regular meeting with a vacancy on your board.
which you wouldn't have until, which kind of messes you up a little bit before, you gotta work pretty
Right.
fast.
Yes.
Yeah, during the
Because
holidays.
You've got a meeting you just appointed.
January 14th. Right.
January 14th.
And if we don't appoint someone in 30 days, then probate court does. So it's up to us.
Yeah.
So, is everyone in town over Christmas?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm still on board, I'm happy to interview, this doesn't get done today, I get that, I'm still serving, if you want to, if you think it's appropriate, I don't know if it is. Leave that to the HR guy, but I'm happy to sit in on those things. The policy does not specify that.
It just says a majority of vote of the remaining members.
And I'm
Is
still
what-
on until the evening. I'll leave that to your discretion.
So if anyone knows anyone out there that you think would be a good fit for
If
the
it
right
makes it easier, we can amend it
reasons.
and I could go sooner. I'm just saying, it gives you more
Yeah.
time for an appointment.
No.
That's your call.
Well, we could make it later, we could make it the 15th,
No,
and
like
then we
that.
had to have 30 days.
We could make it
You know, you could.
Let's just
December
stay where we're at.
31st
I
of
think
next
we got it
year.
all the wrong direction.
Yeah, you could make it the 30th of December,
I think it's.
then we'd have to, no, it wouldn't work. Nope. So, strike that. Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Ms. Remington,
Yes, with regret.
Mr. Tackett,
Yes.
Ms. Webster,
Yes.
Mr. Costello,
Abstain.
Ms. Powerzoni.
Yes.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Okay, item 9, we need a motion for the superintendent's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, 9.1, we have disposals. 9.2 is language recognizing the Harvey Indoor Track Club as a school-affiliated activity. 9.3 is the academic calendar for 1920. 9.4 is our second reading of policy. 9.5 is a memorandum of understanding with our classified union regarding emergency bus drivers. 9.6 is an agreement with TransFinder. And 9.7 is an agreement with Re-Ed Services.
I just have one question on the track club.
Mhm.
Similar to any other high school or after-school type club, I'm assuming this, with this formal recognition of it, gives them access to the facilities and in charge and things like that, is that the purpose?
Yeah, it's the big thing is insurance coverage, the basic insurance coverage that is necessary in order to compete at meets. That was one thing that they weren't able to do on their own.
Coach and leadership are not coming out of any funding of ours.
Right, yeah, there are, otherwise there are.
Transportation.
Transportation.
Right, yeah, they're on their own.
They're on their own?
For transportation.
So how are they gonna pay for that?
They compete, I think, at Spire, and they
Okay.
just get there.
Drive there. We used to have indoor track.
Yes, we did. So, you had mentioned to us, Dr. Engelhardt, that Mr. Coleman would be the coach.
Mhm.
Will he be on another agenda? Because he's not on tonight.
Well, it's, that position isn't, it's not a supplemental position for
Okay.
us, so it's
Okay.
not a contract that's issued for that.
Okay, so my question is, which we had addressed a month or so ago, how is he gonna do 2 winter sports? He's girls' basketball and indoor track?
I don't know exactly what the indoor track schedule is, but it's not an everyday kind of thing. I think that they have some workout days, sporadic workout days, off-site, and then maybe a couple of competitions.
But basketball is every day.
It is.
Okay.
Keep asking questions and makes me think of another, from a volunteer perspective, should he have other people helping? When Mr. Coleman's done background check, through onto the process with us. And if we're recognizing this, those folks, anyone that's
They'd have to have the
associated,
same,
affiliated,
yeah.
trying to drive people to games or anything like that, they would have to go through this.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, I noticed, in the news, now camps are being, pulled into the conversation of safety and, issues that have been, happening and have happened in the past. And, now I believe, any counselor, any type of counselor for any type of camp. And I would think that this would not just be summer camps, but would be any kind of camp, including athletic or arts camps or whatever, are gonna have to be, processed through, several different, areas to make sure that, there are no issues with them before they're allowed to be counselors around children and teens. So I think we really have to make sure that anyone who's around our children, regardless of their age, are well vented. So we don't have to, we always worry about it, but at least we've done everything we need to do to make sure they're safe.
So when things are in place to make sure that that's the case here, I mean, do they have a set of bylaws that indicates that they've got to have some kind of 2D leadership where they're one-on-one with students. Are only parents allowed to drive them to track meets? You know, is that how it kind of works, or do they get in the coach's car if the coach ends up one with a student?
Yeah, my understanding, and I don't know if you guys are able to speak to it at all, is that the kids get their own transportation.
So we're not held liable for any.
If the
anything
coach
that-
then, or another parent doesn't put themselves in a position, I guess that's where I worry a little bit, and I don't know where the boundary is, because I just don't know, I'm just raising the issue, but you've got a couple of parents who meet, if Mr. Coleman says, oh, Mr. Pastell's kid can't drive, so, Miss Remington though volunteered, and I set it up as Coach Coleman, am I putting the school at risk in any way by facilitating that process?
Putting him in the car with me?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a risk, the way I drive. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just, yeah.
Well, I think it's also a concern
Mhm.
about kids driving other kids,
Sure.
you know. I mean, are parents gonna have to sign off? You know,
Well, I mean, kids drive other kids to
Right.
practices and activities and, I mean, all the time.
yeah.
The question is probably one of facilitation, so if you don't have school transport services and you were the coach and you say, you know, Bobby, why don't you, Timmy and his dad are driving to the meet, you know, on Saturday, why don't you catch a ride with them, here's the number. Does that present any risk?
No different than when I can't, well, you know, all of those things are good questions that I think a court would decide. I don't know that we could make the right answer on those, but how different is it than I can't drive a kid to school in the morning and I can't, I mean, or your neighbor kid could drive another kid to school. I mean, there's all kinds of circumstances like that.
Yeah, but my point is that I guess.
You're saying it's
that
facilitator
the
better?
facilitation is what concerns me, and we've got a school kind of sponsored event that's kind of sponsored but not sponsored, so with FBLA or Robot Club, we're providing transportation to those things, and in this case, what other school activities are we not providing transportation to that are comparable to this?
Yeah, I don't
Any
know that we
others?
can point, we can't
Off-site
point to
practices?
any of them, yeah.
You have practice for middle school, it happens at different places, don't you?
That's true. I mean, we send our soccer team over to Maple sometimes and
Okay.
those kinds of things.
And do we
Well,
transport them there, Dr.
Softball.
Not necessarily, like kids come
Okay.
back from
Softball,
practice.
baseball, football,
exercises.
they all
Hmm?
practice at rec park. We
Kids
don't
go home
transport
and then
them
come
there.
out to practice.
Walk
Yeah.
distance though.
What about
Well,
some-
yes, I mean,
Yeah.
there's a difference there,
Spires,
I think
It's
we.
still organized.
I think
They
we-
need you to be at the park at the-
I think we transport to ski club, don't we?
I don't think we've had ski club for several years.
Yeah, we have.
But when we did, I think we were taking, I
Usually
think we were,
bus
yeah,
goes out.
we were transporting.
I don't know, I just think if it's something we might wanna look into and have some kind of.
If we need guidelines
agreement
around that
with-
to.
With some kind of guidelines, so
Right.
that we're just making sure we're
And the
inside
parents
this
sign
and not
off
trying
on
to
it.
be difficult for the track club. I think the track club ought to move forward, but we gotta just think about it, because we don't know.
Yeah.
If it's something different from what we do most of the time, and we haven't thought about it, let's make sure we do give it some thought.
Sean and I will connect about what risk is assumed.
Yeah.
And I,
well, I mean, there's.
yeah, and this is the same arrangement that several districts
Yeah.
have.
Right,
So-
we'll see what they do as far as transportation at least.
I mean, there's the liability of the drivers, obviously, and their
So we're moving on
background,
to
whatever, how
personnel.
they fit into kids. But then there's also the driver's liability if their insurance would not cover and ours won't cover, what kind of issue that might present, because their insurance company takes the standpoint that this is a school event,
Which they will.
you know, and, yeah, so, I mean, we've gotta make sure that all of those things are covered.
I mean, driving another student here is one thing, driving them to Spire is a different thing.
Well, if they leave their home, then that's the parent's responsibility,
Right, it's,
allowing their kid to ride to school with another one. If their child leaves
To and
from
from school.
here and goes to an event that's part of the high
Mhm.
school program,
Yeah.
then that's different, so. I just wanna make sure we're covered and that we can, the best we can, provide a safe
Mhm.
transportation route for students who wanna participate in something that's quite a distance away.
so we've beaten this one.
Yeah,
Pretty well
we
to the
beat
ground.
it
Yeah.
into the ground, yeah.
I have a question about the academic calendar.
Mhm.
It's labeled draft in the attachment.
Right.
I'm assuming that means it's still a draft, it's still in draft form? Or is it final for approval?
Yes, this is final for approval.
Okay.
I think that was a process thing. We went through multiple versions of drafts, and I think
Sure.
and that
I'm
one
wondering, I
is still
mean,
on there.
the first quarter is 43 days,
Mhm.
fourth quarter is 44, the middle order semesters, whatever, however we call them now.
Mhm.
The middle two are 48. What's the difference, you know, with the additional week in the middle two?
Well, if you're going to have inequity among the quarters in terms of the day, those middle winter quarters are the place to have them, because you're most likely to lose some days there because of calamity days and things like that.
Mhm.
I mean, just the way it fits together is building the calendar such that the semester ends at winter break. So you end up with kind of a firm stop,
Right.
kind of there in the middle, and that's just the way that they divide.
How many calamity days are we allowed by state?
I think if you did the math, it would be up to 14 or.
Oh, is that many now?
Yeah.
Now it's by hours, right?
Right, it's all by
Right,
hours.
it's
Yeah.
hours.
Although I don't know that we've done any delayed openings anytime recently. Yeah, I just wonder, with starting the second week of August, it just seems early. But
We
if
do
this
have
is-
air conditioning.
Yeah, I'm not
It's
worried
nice
about
for
that.
the kids.
I'm not worried about physical ability.
Yeah. We did make some adjustments to move that up. You know, if we stayed on the same calendar that we've been on for the last 2 or 3 years, our start day would have been that previous week. Just because the way the calendar has shifted, that start day has become earlier and earlier, even though we built the calendar the same way. So we adjusted throughout to keep it from going back any earlier.
I
Just,
mean, even if we took a week out of the second period, do we call them semesters or quarters or?
Yeah, quarters.
Quarters.
Quarters. Even if we took a week out of that second one and kept the week in the third, you know, keep that hard break.
I think you have less instructional time as well here.
Right.
Knock it up a week of instructional time. And this is what we've been doing. It gets us
Well,
enough hours that we have. plenty
You know,
of-
the problem becomes a financial one, right? Because when does payment start, in September? From the
As
state?
long as the calendar doesn't go earlier, I'm fine. If you push it later, I'm fine. Teachers get their first pay the second week in September. So, all the teachers' contracts start in September, so their first pay is 2 weeks in.
That's when our
So-
fiscal year starts, is September, right?
for their contracts, right? So depending on when it starts, it's irrelevant to me. I'm just saying that if you move it further up into August and start even earlier, if you have somebody coming in right from the start, like from college straight there,
Right.
who doesn't have a paycheck from the previous year, they work almost the entire month of August, if you keep on moving it up, and then a half a month into September. They almost work a month and a half before they get paid.
Well, they're
So-
working 5 weeks this year.
Right, but the contract states that I pay them it's starting in September. If we were ever to move that and pay them like the last pay in September, like just say you work, like 2 weeks, then 4 weeks. If you pay them at the end of August, that year that you flip the contract to pay them at the end of August, I would have 2 payrolls in 1 year, and a payroll is about $850,000 for me currently right now. So I would take an $850,000 hit on my money right now that I'll never recoup, because it just goes out to infinity. Because when this new contract cycle ends, then they're gonna end, the first pay in August, I'll have to start their pays. I'll never get that break until we close our doors, or I die, or whatever happens. I mean, so it's an $850 price tag to move teacher contracts up by 2 weeks.
Right.
Makes no logical sense to me, ever.
I have a question about, if we start on August 15th, the students are only in school for 2 days. Would it be better to start off on a Monday and go the whole week?
From an educator's standpoint, a 2-day week is wonderful.
Well, yeah. But
No,
I'm just saying,
seriously,
but for
because they're
students.
easing back into it.
Okay, all right.
And I'll tell you,
I mean, you can get organizational stuff done and all of
Right.
that, and kind of get
Okay.
the process going. I can understand that and appreciate that, but
because those 5-day weeks at the beginning.
one thing that bothers me, that I've noticed with my kids is they were finishing the year in high school. It's the last week to 2 weeks, they weren't doing anything. And they were frustrated by not doing anything. I appreciate the intent to make sure that we don't end up in a deficit where we have to have extra days or additional time because of snow days or calamity days or whatever. And we've done that in the past, and it's been a bit of a hassle, but there's nothing more frustrated than kids in May just dragging around because they've got nothing to do in school because they're already done. Plus, all our testing is in April, so trying to deal with that and which is a reason to. No, I know that.
So are you
But-
saying, Mr. Tackett, as seniors they're done, or just as students they're done 2 weeks before?
It's been most noticeable as my kids as seniors, but
Okay.
even as sophomores and juniors, their classes have been pretty much, they've gotten through the material and there's not a lot, they're trying to come up with stuff to do.
Are they doing a project maybe instead of an exam, or not necessarily? Okay.
I think that it's a program issue, not a calendar issue, right, regardless of.
Yes.
And to my knowledge, we don't have any of our curricula where we don't have more than 185 days worth of content. So that's on us as instructional leaders to make
To
sure
use
the
that
program
time.
is being
Mhm.
carried out till the finish line and past the finish line.
Maybe their classes have just been very successful and they've gotten through the material quicker. I don't know. Okay.
All right.
Okay, we ready for a vote?
Okay, Mr. Tackett,
Yes.
Mr. Webster,
Yes.
Mr. Costello,
Yes.
Ms. Remington,
Yes.
Ms. Powers Dolly.
Yes. Okay, item 10, personnel, Dr. Engelhardt. We need a motion before you start, sorry.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, 10.1, we have a resignation. 10.2 are leaves. 10.3 are mid-year salary column changes. 10.4 is sub-rate for sub-athletic director. 10.5 are class size reimbursements. 10.6 is certified substitutes. 10.7 is classified substitutes. And 10.8 is supplemental and pupil activity contracts.
Any discussion on these items?
I don't know if you know the answer to this, and I should have presented it before the meeting, but with the column change, was that because she finished some education, or how did that happen?
Yeah, so if I'm correct, you can submit for column changes a couple times within a year.
Right.
And so it's possible to get that mid-year correction whenever you do it.
Are there any other questions or
This
comments?
set sub-rate for athletic director,
Mhm.
that is until,
Yeah, so, yeah, we needed a sub for a period of time.
oh, yeah, that's
yeah.
right, I'm sorry, I remember, yes, okay. And is Mr. Walling back?
Yes, yeah, he's back and says that he's doing well.
Mrs. Seaman?
Okay, Mr. Webster?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Ms. Remington?
Yes.
Mr. Tackett?
Yes.
Ms. Paratoni?
Yes. Item 11, we need a motion for professional visits.
So moved.
Second.
11.1 are professional visits from the general fund, and 11.2 are professional visits paid by grant funds.
Questions or comments? Mrs. Seaman?
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Ms. Remington?
Yes.
Mr. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Webster?
Yes.
Ms. Paratoni?
Yes. Mr. Webster?
No signatories on our
Okay. So, item 13, recognizing positive moments and/or
I want
events.
to talk about a positive committee session that I had with Mr. Bell. I don't know if you're prepared to present anything, or if you just want to talk through.
No, I didn't even think about it.
That's okay. I know it's been mentioned before, we're looking at some improvements out of the field, from turf to track resurfacing to some improvements, and some of which will be mandated soon for fencing changes, as well as some traffic rerouting to accommodate things, parking lot resurfacing, updates to some of the entryways. There's quite a few things. I just have to say that Chuck and I met about those. Had a conversation about what Mr. Bell and team have put together. We looked that over, presented a few options. Really want to know what you need next from us. Chuck and team, or if you have any questions for us?
Well, it's not that I have any questions, although I would, and I apologize again for not being able to get there in time. Traveling didn't work the way I hoped. You know, Steve and I, there were kind of two things we really focused on a lot. You know, the idea of the parking lot at the west end or southwest end, whatever it is, versus making that into a field. I'm much more with Steve's idea of that, trying to make that into a usable practice field, and then mandating that practice does not happen on the turf field. Just to make sure that we treat that properly. Also with the, couple of the entrance ideas, I think there's still a lot of room for us to look at different options. Maybe not keeping the existing entrance, but instead of going to the opposite end of the building, kind of do something in between, which would allow us to keep the existing parking lot as the primary parking lot, and then being able to direct traffic around the east side of the building instead of around the west side, where the fence starts impinging on the concession area, you know, moving the fence. So I mean, I think there's a couple things that we can work on, but all in all, I think you've developed a strong sense of what needs to be done there, and you've got a good conceptual groundwork to build from. So yeah, I think it's a very good start to what's going on there.
So to add to that, I mean, since not everybody was there, the press box is in bad shape and needs replacement. So included in there were some illustrations of what the press box would look like and some figures. Turf, we've talked about turf replacement. Mr. Bell presented 2 different types of turf. One that's a more traditional turf that we have now, which kind of lays flat when you look at it. I'm guessing it runs faster, it's less entangled at the bottom. Then there was a second type that was actually more involved at the bottom. I don't even know how you describe that.
Thatchy.
It's more thatchy, yeah. However, it requires less thatching.
Yeah.
So that one requires less maintenance and less raking, shallower raking, and easier maintenance, keeps the pellets in place better, a lot of different things. And I believe you mentioned there's an element of softness to that versus the other.
Yeah.
Like a cushion?
It has a little more cushion.
Give.
It's better on the joints when the feet
Okay.
impact the surface.
Now, again, was there talk of a change in what's mandated on high school fields? And the underlayment or the substrate?
Subsurface, yeah.
Right, there's a certain amount of force or impact that can happen with a head, for example.
Right.
They have now a product called a shock pad, which most of the schools that are putting in turfs are putting in now, that keeps that above the threshold, so the field's always safe. Even if 15 years from now, we're still on the same field and everything's compressed and not doing very well.
So if the turf
It's
surface
always-
is bad, you still
yeah,
have that
you still
layer
have
of
the shock
protection
pad.
below it
Yeah.
that we don't have today. I mean, if you've ever watched before, it's a hard surface under.
Yeah, instead of depending just on that infill stuff,
Right.
the pebbles, the shock pad will help protect the kids.
So not a mandate, however, I mean,
I think it will eventually be mandated.
But for now, it would be like an upgrade?
For now, it would be an upgrade, yeah.
Okay.
well,
But
safety
if-
issue too.
Okay.
I think within the next 10 years, for sure, they'll be mandating it,
And how long would that turf last?
at least 10 years.
Okay.
If we keep off on it, like that could suggest we may be on it a lot longer, hopefully.
And then the other that I mentioned briefly was also some changes proposed about the distance from the track that the perimeter fence is. I believe you said it's gonna go up to 1 meter?
1 meter.
1 meter. Our track right now, and many, the fence is right near the running surface. I mean, you don't have 1 meter, you don't have,
Foot.
yeah, you might have, so, about a third of.
So right now, it's just a suggestion, so it's gonna be eventually I don't know what they call it, bylaw, but I'd hate for us to be out of the running for certain events or tournaments just because our fence is too close.
Yeah, how is that gonna play into the stadium seating? Because it's, it's pretty close.
It's actually
Not there, it's
not.
not.
Oh.
It only comes into play down mostly by the concessions area.
Yeah, well, that's one of, yeah. that's
But
what I'm
the
thinking
seating,
of.
you still have, because you have your sideline there.
Right,
You may give
that's right.
cheerleaders a little less room.
Yeah,
Um,
okay.
But it's really not, there's not much,
There is.
at least I don't believe so, private bleachers.
We have, no, it'll be okay. It'll be right up against to where the guardrail comes down, but
But there's enough room.
yeah, people can still navigate through there.
It's mostly down where,
Concession areas.
well, and where some of the principals stand and watch the
Oh.
game. That area will be impacted, so you'll have to find a new spot to loiter. But
Loiter.
But that'll be seriously impacted by that change, and with some of the traffic rerouting that you proposed.
I think what I'll do is what I've shown you already with the aerials, we'll just draft another one that further conceptualizes what we're talking about, and go from there.
And one of our concerns, one of the proposals had moving the ticketing booth from its current location to the end, next to the hill where you're coming down in, kind of across from the parking lot for job and families, for the health department.
Oh, all the way down there.
So one of the concerns Mr. Tackett and I were talking about is that's a busy street. And with people coming down the hill, especially at speed, and then trying to stop for pedestrians, you know, his suggestion, when you see it on paper, actually makes good sense. It would impact, again, where, you know, Officer Ponder and some of the law enforcement park, it would kind of move the ticketing booth over that way a little bit. And I think that could be,
Yeah, and we'd have to
Deal with
look at
that.
where the handicap parking is.
And you might even-
There's a few
expand.
things that we would have to look at, but, it's not significant. I mean, the bigger thing was the pedestrian traffic, how we go around the building. You know, like concession areas and trying to direct traffic around there, so again, I think everything you presented is well thought out, and it's, you know, we're at a point where it's still ripe for investigation and evaluation, so I think you've got a good foundation, and, you know, we should probably send that out to everybody.
yep.
And,
We'll maybe clean up with some of these suggestions. And then the only two things I think that we talked about that I didn't cover tonight, the additional small building, the locker room.
The
Could you touch
addition.
on that?
We just need better facilities for what normally down there is the women. So if there's a large group of people down there, the larger group gets the larger locker room, which sometimes means the women are in a smaller separate space. So if we build an addition that's just a women's locker room, that won't happen anymore.
So if there's like conflicting events or time
Right.
between events, one team coming off the field and another coming on, they can't get into the big locker room,
Yeah, it'd be a dedicated locker room just for women's sports.
which is a good thing. And then the only other one I'll put out there, I made a suggestion, which I shared with Mr. Tackett as well. The marching band did ask the city to borrow some bleachers to put down at the behind the goalpost. They're pretty ragged bleachers. They are actually damaging pants because they're so worn, the wood is splintered. Suggestion, if it fits in the budget, and if it makes sense to get some bleachers down that are more permanent and frankly safer, because those, if you've ever seen the Little League bleachers, they're pretty well.
they're getting towards their end of their
They're,
life.
they need resurfacing and playing for sure.
But Steve's point about the damage to the uniform pants is not insignificant. Those
No.
are expensive uniforms, they're very, very expensive. Anyway,
No, that's okay.
Thanks for the summer.
That's it, and then there's a couple drawings that I'm sure Mr. Bell will send out.
Great.
That's all I think that is a very positive thing, I mean, recognizing that and keeping it up to date
Mhm.
and, you know.
Thinking
heard-
ahead.
Yeah, I heard someone's flipping through the press box floor at some point or darn near it.
Really?
It's getting up there, and
Hmm.
it's time. So
And I-
still some outstanding questions that I have for Sean. Is the press box complete and ready to go? Is it a turnkey thing, you drop down, you know, wire up and you're good? You know, those are things that we talk about.
And I'd just add, our winter sports teams are all underway and with some early success, so,
Great.
Well, nice coverage and then playing June.
yes, it's a nice piece on the boys' basketball team. Mhm. Yeah, so,
Couple big ones.
and people really been turning out for the games, so we
Oh,
want
yeah.
to keep that going.
I couldn't get my regular seat.
Yeah. So it should be exciting across all of our teams this winter.
Is there a winter sports pass available for purchase? How does that,
Um,
do we know?
Yeah, is it by season?
Fairly certain.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Since the last meeting, Dr. Engelhardt, Mrs. Samek, and Ms. Jackson and I attended the Capitol Conference, which was, you had attended before.
I am.
And had you attended before, Doctor? Okay, I had not, so it was a new experience, very busy, very exhausting, but it was worthwhile. And Mrs. Minnick, our food service director, was presenting while we were there. We were gonna sit in on her session and heckle her, but we did not. But it was very interesting. I attended and I just happened to find out about this. Maple had a little style show fundraiser on a Friday night, not last Friday, but the Friday before. And it was to, any proceeds were to go to the food service program at Maple. So that was interesting. They had, the appetizers were donated by Lure Bistro. It was very nice. Yes, sushi. Yep. It was very nice.
Still not sure how well it'll work, but we've had that conversation before about how you apply funds.
Yeah.
I'm sure someone will figure it out.
And we're full of music concerts.
Yes.
That's right.
Full.
Yes, the two concerts last week were both wonderful and packed. Both of them were packed. I mean, standing room only, right, Mr. Tackett?
Yeah, it was, for the choir concert. I didn't get to the middle school band concert.
No, I don't.
That was very well attended also. Yep.
I'm just thrilled at how big the middle school choirs are getting.
Yeah.
It's really fantastic. I know,
That's what I did for the last 7 years. I bolstered the
there you go, absolutely.
bars.
I know I harassed a number of people with an article about arts involvement, and I just sent, happened to watch 60 Minutes last night, which is a rarity, but they were featuring an interview with a Metropolitan Opera singer. I forget the gentleman's name, Speedo or something. Great baritone, bass baritone. I mean, this guy's got an amazing voice. But he came from a very dysfunctional, poverty level home where he was in juvenile detention at 12 for his own safety and for the safety of those around him. And he said very clearly, probably the biggest thing in his life was his 4th grade teacher, who both on the first day of school didn't throw him out when he threw the desk at her, and also when he got put into the juvenile detention, told her not, or she told him not to let that be a defining moment. And he talked about how, she maintained communication with him, and the fact that she cared and reached out to him made all the difference in the world. And from there, he then got involved in the arts at school, and they took a field trip up to New York to see the Metropolitan Opera, and there was a black woman singing the lead in Carmen, and he was all of a sudden had his life's mission in front of him as a teenager, and he's going on to achieve that. I mean, it's those kind of little things that our teachers do every day that, we don't know what impact they're gonna have, but they can have such a tremendous impact. And I'm just so thankful that our teachers, so many of them have that kind of commitment for our kids and our administrators, and it's just amazing to see and to think about what can happen because of it.
Very true.
All right,
Anything on?
moving on.
Okay.
Who's gonna read it?
Mary, can I read?
Mm-hmm.
Executive session, 14.1, pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code, section 121.22, G1, the board adjourns to executive session for the purpose of considering the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, demotion, or compensation of an employee or official of the school district.
And a second motion.